Nyla 7 always thought her first day in the human anatomy module would be calm, orderly, maybe even boring. Instead, she found herself staring at a holographic human that looked like it had been designed by a deranged artist with too much free time and too many fantasies. She stood frozen, stylus trembling in her hand as she tried to process what she was seeing. The simulator flickered, stuttered, and then proudly projected a human male with proportions so absurd that even the emergency lights seemed to blush. She whispered to herself, "That can't be real, right? Is that a limb? A growth? A detachable accessory?" The hologram rotated proudly, and Nyla backed up as though it might swing violently in her direction. She restarted the machine twice, then 3 more times just to be sure. Same exaggerated results. The simulator even zoomed in once, which almost made her throw the stylus at it. She took a deep breath and forced herself to behave professionally, though every medical instinct she had was screaming at her to run. But she was a trainee nurse, sworn to brave any biological danger with composure. And whatever this thing was attached to humans, it definitely counted as a biological danger. So she lifted her tablet and began writing notes in the most serious tone possible. Primary frontal appendage extremely large. Potential mobility hazard. Must advise humans to avoid strong winds. Then she frowned at the hologram again. Possible weaponization? Accidental blunt force injuries? Recommend safety helmet for lower body? Her supervisor had warned her humans were unusual. He never mentioned anything like this. She wondered if human evolution simply got bored and decided to go for comedy instead of logic. Her cheeks heated at the thought. She didn't even know if humans had cheeks in the same place, but she imagined they probably turned red too, in the presence of oversized complications. She paced around the projection, trying to maintain a clinical mindset, but every angle made it worse. The simulator chimed cheerfully as though showing off its masterpiece. Nyla muttered, "Why is it proud? Stop being proud." She considered asking her supervisor directly but couldn't bring herself to say the words out loud. Instead, she approached him carefully and asked vague, nervous questions. "Sir, should a human's main, frontal structure be capable of independent motion?" He raised an eyebrow and answered absent-mindedly. "Humans can move every part of their body, Nyla. Very flexible species." She took that as confirmation of her nightmare. Flexible. Of course. The hologram practically looked like it needed a seatbelt. Her supervisor added, "Don't worry, you'll get used to their anatomy." She nodded, thinking, not unless I get therapy first. Back in the training room, she replayed the hologram twice more, helplessly fascinated and horrified. Her notes grew stranger. Humans must require reinforced pants and wide hallways. Warning: sudden turns could cause accidental property damage. Medical staff must maintain safe distance during movement. By the time the Academy AI pinged her with a message, "Your first real human patient will arrive in 10 minutes. She had already imagined a dozen disaster scenarios. What if it knocked over the exam bed? What if it needed a sling? What if it had moods? Panic surged through her. She rushed around the exam room securing straps, tightening stabilizers, and preparing shock-absorbing padding. She even placed a warning cone near the bed, just in case. She rehearsed polite greetings in her head, all of which sounded dangerously awkward. "Hello, welcome, please don't swing anything." "Good morning, sir, sorry for the protective gear, it's standard protocol for large surprises." Nothing sounded right. She stared at the door, heart racing, preparing to meet what she assumed would be a front-heavy, gravity-defying human who required structural engineering more than medical care. Whatever stepped through that door, she decided she would handle it with bravery, professionalism, and dignity. Or she'd faint. Both were equally possible. Ethan walked in like someone who had absolutely no idea the universe was about to misunderstand his entire existence. Nyla 7 stiffened the moment she saw him, an ordinary-looking human male, relaxed, smiling, not at all resembling the holographic titan she had spent the last hour emotionally preparing for. Her mind spiraled immediately. Oh no. He's so small. So small. Is this a medical emergency? Is he deteriorating? Am I about to witness catastrophic shrinkage in progress? She tried not to gasp, but a little sound escaped anyway. Ethan blinked. Hi. She attempted a professional tone, but her voice cracked. Hello, honorable human male. I am assigned to handle your proportions. Ethan hesitated. My, what now? Nyla cleared her throat, wishing she could delete herself from existence. Your forward-facing measurements. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, this is just a physical exam, right? She nodded far too quickly, clipboard shaking. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Very physical. Ethan took a seat on the exam bed. Nyla flinched, bracing for it to collapse from a mass it was never built to support. When it didn't even creak, she panicked more. The simulator said humans weigh more in the front. Maybe he's lost mass dangerously fast. She circled him slowly, studying him like a scientist examining a rare, endangered beetle. Ethan tried to follow her with his eyes. Everything okay? You look like you're trying to solve a murder case. She forced a reassuring smile. No murder. Just checking if you're functional. Ethan stared. I hope so. Nyla leaned closer, lowering her voice. Have you noticed any abnormal shrinkage? Any sudden reductions? Any missing pieces? Ethan's mind screeched. Missing what? She waved her hands quickly. It's fine. It's fine. I am simply ensuring your main appendage is not in critical condition. His face went red. Ma'am, what are you talking about? She tried another approach, flipping through her notes. Humans usually exhibit greater frontal mass. Substantial. Significant. Potentially dangerous. Ethan rubbed his temples. I feel like you're trying to compliment me but deeply failing. Despite the chaos, there was an odd charm between them. Every time he smiled nervously, Nyla's stomach did something weird, like a medical monitor glitching. She stepped closer to check his temperature, but her hand hovered awkwardly. I must warn you, humans tend to overheat during examinations. Especially if emotionally stimulated. Ethan coughed. I'm stimulated? She corrected herself, flustered. No. I mean yes. I mean, your heart rate is elevated. He pointed out. Probably because you're circling me like a suspicious crow. She finally asked him to lie down for full proportional assessment. He complied, though his expression said he was reconsidering all his life choices. She lifted a cloth intending to inspect his lower body, but the moment she glanced downward her eyes widened in horror. She dropped the cloth and nearly dropped the tablet. Oh, stars above, you're missing 3/4 of your mass. Ethan sat up like he'd been shot. What mass? Everything is exactly where it should be. Nyla backed up, clutching her head. This is catastrophic. Or maybe a deformity? Or maybe inversed? What if gravity is pulling you inward? Ethan groaned. Lady, nothing is being pulled anywhere. Please stop diagnosing my dignity. But Nyla was spiraling into full meltdown. I must initiate measurement emergency protocol. Ethan tried grabbing her wrist. No! Please! That sounds terrible! She hit a button on the wall anyway. The bed tightened its straps automatically, pinning Ethan down gently but firmly. He shouted, Why are there straps? She calmly explained. To prevent sudden flailing during examination. Humans with unstable proportions sometimes thrash. I am not thrashing, he yelled. Yet, she added. She pulled over a scanning device the size of a small lawnmower, and Ethan genuinely feared for his future. Nyla powered it on, muttering, Do not fear. I am trained for large, complicated situations. Ethan groaned, face and hands. I don't know whether to be insulted or flattered anymore. As the scanner hummed and Nyla leaned over him with a mixture of fascination, confusion, and poorly hidden curiosity, Ethan had only one thought. This is either the weirdest medical exam or the beginning of the strangest romance of my life. The moment the scanner powered on, the supervisor stormed in with the exhausted look of a man who had spent decades dealing with alien interns and their catastrophic misunderstandings. He froze mid-step when he saw Ethan strapped to the bed like a hostage while Nyla hovered over him with a machine that looked loud enough to start a small war. Ethan immediately shouted, "Sir, please tell her I'm not missing any vital parts." Nyla countered, "He is severely reduced. The proportions are dangerously low. He may be collapsing inward." The supervisor pinched the bridge of his nose so hard Ethan thought the man might pull his own face off. Without a word, he walked over to the hologram module, tapped a few keys, and the display flickered. Instead of the anatomically absurd human Nyla had studied, an error message popped up. "Warning, data source, user glactkinks.club fan mod pack installed." The supervisor stared at it. Then he sighed a sigh that carried generations of disappointment and despair. Nyla blinked. "Fan mod pack? What is that?" The supervisor turned to her with the expression of someone explaining fire to a medieval villager. "It means, Nyla, you trained on fantasy anatomy drawn by bored aliens on the internet." She stiffened. "Bored aliens?" "Extremely bored." Ethan burst out laughing, relief flooding through him so fast the bed straps jiggled. "So she thought I was supposed to be some kind of quiet?" The supervisor snapped without looking at him. Nyla's entire face turned a shade that in her species signaled complete emotional collapse. "So humans are not supposed to be that enormous?" The supervisor stared at her. "Nyla, if humans were shaped like that, planets would tilt." Ethan wheezed through laughter. "Please keep talking. This is the best day of my life." The supervisor unstrapped Ethan with a few quick motions, grumbling under his breath about academy budget cuts and young trainees corrupted by forums. Ethan sat up, rubbing his wrists, still chuckling. Nyla stood frozen, mortified, tablet pressed against her chest like a shield. "I may have misdiagnosed your everything." Ethan grinned. "Just a tiny bit." She approached him cautiously, eyes soft with embarrassment. "I am deeply sorry for assuming you were experiencing catastrophic shrinkage. I was prepared to perform emergency enlargement." Ethan choked on air. "Enlarge what exactly?" She stuttered. "Your proportions," the simulator said. He cut in, laughing. "Okay, seriously, you thought I was supposed to be that big? I'd pass out every time I stood up." Nyla's voice dropped to a quiet murmur. "I only wanted to ensure your safety." Ethan smiled at her, genuinely this time, not confused, not nervous, just amused and charmed. "Well, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Even if you almost scanned me into another dimension." She looked away, trying to maintain some dignity. "It is important to me to understand your species correctly." Ethan leaned closer, teasing. "Scientifically, or personally?" She froze. Then her antennae did the alien equivalent of blushing. "Both are relevant." The supervisor cleared his throat loudly, reminding them he still existed and regretted it. "Before you two start whatever this is, finish the proper scan. Use the official settings." Nyla nodded quickly, pulling up the real measurement baseline. The scanner hummed again, running a normal, boring, scientifically accurate scan. Nyla watched the numbers appear, then her eyes widened. She checked again. Then again. Ethan raised a brow. What does that face mean?" She swallowed. "You are, actually above average." Ethan smirked. "Oh?" She nodded slowly. "More than above average. You are scientifically impressive." Ethan laughed, leaning back proudly. "So I'm not a medical emergency after all?" Nyla hesitated, then smiled in a small, flustered way. "No. You are unexpectedly exceptional." For a moment they just looked at each other, her curiosity softening into interest, his amusement settling into something warmer. The supervisor grumbled something about scheduling mandatory training modules and escaped the room before he had to witness one more second of their awkward chemistry. As soon as he left, Nyla stepped closer to Ethan again. I hope this will not discourage you from future examinations. Ethan grinned, voice low and playful. Oh, trust me. I'm suddenly very open to follow-ups. Nyla's heart thumped in a way no medical manual had ever described. And for the first time all day, she wasn't panicking. She was intrigued. Completely, scientifically intrigued. The door clicked shut behind the supervisor, and Nyla Seven felt the silence stretch between her and Ethan like a warm, awkward blanket neither of them knew how to fold. She held her tablet close, tapping it nervously even though the screen was already locked. Ethan sat on the edge of the exam bed, finally free from straps, looking both amused and strangely comfortable, as if getting tied down by an alien nurse was just a mildly interesting Tuesday for him. She cleared her throat softly. I want to apologize again for the misunderstanding. I should have verified the data before assuming your proportions were catastrophically abnormal. Ethan chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Trust me, I've been called a lot of things in my life, but catastrophically abnormal is definitely new. Nyla winced. I did not mean it offensively. Ethan waved it off with a smile. Honestly? I'm gonna be laughing about it for weeks. Still, there was something gentler in his expression now, the panic replaced with curiosity, mirroring hers. She stepped closer, hesitating, then finally asked, Do humans normally handle embarrassment with humor? Ethan nodded. Yeah. It's either laugh or cry. Laughing's more fun. She considered this thoughtfully. Your species confuses me, but in an interesting way. He grinned. I'll take interesting over terrified. Nyla realized she was still standing too stiffly, like a malfunctioning medical droid, so she forced herself to relax a little. Not much, just enough to look less like she was about to initiate an emergency protocol again. For what it's worth, she said gently, your final results were very favorable. Ethan smirked. Yeah, I caught that part. Scientifically impressive, wasn't it? She looked away, her bioluminescent cheeks glowing faintly. I was referring to your overall health metrics. She lied badly. Of course you were, he teased. She opened her tablet again, pretending to review data even though she wasn't reading any of it. I do need to schedule follow-up appointments. Multiple, actually. For comprehensive understanding of human physiology. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice warm. Are these medically required follow-ups, or personally motivated ones? She froze for a second, then answered honestly. Possibly both. I am still analyzing. He laughed, but not mocking, more like he found her sincerity charming. Well, I'm game, he said. I don't get many opportunities to be someone's scientific curiosity. She lowered the tablet, giving him a rare, genuine smile. You are certainly that. He hopped off the exam bed, stretching lightly. She watched him too intently, then quickly looked away before he noticed. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Am I being evaluated right now? He teased. She sputtered. No. I mean yes. I mean, this is observation purely for research purposes. He raised an eyebrow. And what does the research say? She struggled for words. That humans move differently than the hologram suggested. He burst out laughing again. She felt her antennae twitch from embarrassment, but his laughter wasn't cruel this time. It was soft, inviting, shared. Well, he said as he grabbed his jacket. If your research ever needs, more data, I'm around. She swallowed, gathering her composure. I will keep your availability in mind. Strictly for professional purposes. Mostly. She regretted adding the last word the moment it left her mouth, but Ethan's grin widened. Nyla, that mostly was the best part. She completed his report with a few taps, then paused before submitting it, debating whether to add a note. After a moment of quiet courage, she typed. Patient exhibits strong health, high adaptability, and unusually favorable measurements. Recommend continued study. She didn't let him see the screen. As Ethan approached the door, he turned back. Hey, thanks for taking care of me. Even if you thought I was falling apart. She nodded, expression softening. Thank you for being patient. Even when you believed I was trying to measure you into oblivion. He stepped out of the room, giving her a final playful salute. See you at the next exam. Nyla watched him leave, her pulse fluttering in odd, pleasant patterns she would later pretend were purely biological. She saved the report, placed her tablet aside, and whispered to herself, unexpectedly exceptional indeed. For the first time since beginning her training, she found herself eager, not nervous, for her next human case. Or rather, one specific human,